Okay, good afternoon or good evening, afternoon. This is day 136 of making little videos to describe a day or thought in the life of a schizophrenic cognitive war subject. My name is Dominic and I experienced schizophrenia, but I believe I am subject to a cognitive war and that I have had schizophrenia inflicted on me. I make these videos to describe some amount of sanity amidst the world going crazy and warring upon me. Uh, I have written a book on medium.com. It describes some of my thought processes, which could have gotten me targeted for this cognitive war, schizophrenia infliction, as well as uh, some amount of research on technology, such as voice hearing technology in the public domain that's coming out now. And on day 17 of these videos, I describe why I call myself schizophrenic rather than targeted individual. And on day 45, I submit a 3-minute intro into why I make these videos. And there's the rest of the video for that day. I make these videos to express some amount of humanistic aspect of myself, try to humanize myself amidst the stigma of the mental illness. And so, yeah. Okay, so I was going to start today talking about a information meme that I found on something called Amazing Science Facts, and it was on my Facebook scroll or whatever, and it said, using ultrasonic beams, researchers have created sound that only one person in a crowd can hear. Known as parametric audio, the technology is marketed by companies like Holosonics under Audio Spotlight, under quote Audio Spotlight, already used in museums, ATMs, and stores. While promising for virtual reality, advertising, and assistive tech, experts warn of privacy, health, and ethical concerns over targeted messaging. And that sounds a lot like what schizophrenics have described for 100 years. You know, they get a targeted message that only they can hear. And for a long time, it was questioned like, well, how could no one else hear this sound? How is that possible? And here you go is a example of how it's right out in the open that this technology exists. And so, you know, I experienced that my experience for about 6 years. I experienced that 24/7 messaging that drove me crazy and traumatized me and drove me insane. And it was harassment and abuse and belittling, just kind of annoy, drive me insane or whatever. And I experience that now on occasion where it's like a month long. It'll just kind of come in for a month, and so that's why I'm worried. Like when I go back to work, I'm worried about losing my disability, and then it comes up for a month, and I can't really concentrate. You can't really do anything. You know, there's a lot of the schizophrenic things that say I'm doing so great, even though I have these voices be abusing me or whatever, and I don't want to discount people for getting out there and doing such a thing like that, but sometimes I wonder if those people are tools, meaning that they're just like operatives kind of painting a picture, like a fascist operative. And so, you know, I saw something else today that said your anxiety, your hidden reason for your anxiety. The hidden reason for my anxiety is a decades-long movement for fascism in America. And that's a very gigantic reason for it's not really that hidden when it's now out in the open with Donald Trump or whatever, but like there is a paramilitary citizen force out in the public everywhere you go. They're like little secret shoppers, secret people. just harassing people in public or whatever. There's a whole movement online calling it gang stalking and stuff like that. And so that's a hidden reason for my anxiety. And people always oftentimes you see these things where they're like, don't scroll on your phone, don't scroll on your phone, get out into public, get out into uh get out to watch TV, or I don't know just get off your phone or whatever. And I was thinking, I've made it so that my algorithm is very much non-fascist, even though there's fascist things on my algorithm because they override it. But I have like a non-fascist algorithm, and it's kind of like my dopamine. I scroll on my phone to avoid the fascism outside and to avoid the fascism on TV, and so that's why I scroll on my phone or whatever. Uh, it would be nice to get out and meet people who are still sane, because there's been like this movement in America for quite a few decades now where it's just kind of pushing this highly productive, like pushing productivity and profits, like increased productivity, increased profits, and they've equated this with like humans evolving, like social or human evolution. And it's a very dangerous thing to equate those, perpetual increased production or perpetual increased profits with evolution of humans and society. And it's almost kind of, in some ways, in a lot of ways, it's actually the opposite of evolved society and evolved humans. I'm not saying totally it is, but like, there's a balance that needs to be found by our society. And it's just like you go out into the world and it's just like it's so unbalanced. And I guess, I'm a sensitive person, so when I go out, and I think other people are too. I think there's a lot of us that are like sensitive to these things. Like we feel like the disjointedness of the beast of the system, just like bearing down on people, and uh, it's really crazy. And I guess that's why people want to do this. What do you call it? The stop everything, shut everything down, so we can negotiate better conditions. And there's people who have way worse conditions than my condition, but my condition was a torture condition for a while, so it's not like mine was that great for a long time. And like today, for instance, there's the defamation going on, the shooting in Minnesota. You'll notice that the name was a Robin Westman, and he was like uh, anti-Semite or whatever. So like, that's because uh, I question Israel, or just it's part of a mind control program. I was friends with a Robin in college. I studied about Western civilization and Islamic civilization, and there was all this talk about the West or whatever. So they call me the West Man. And I one time, I think they said this person was a trans person or something, and I one time got dressed up as a woman for laughs, and when I was drunk or whatever, and it's kind of some stupid thing I did. And so they're saying like it's like somebody trying to use that or something, like some mind control thing. And uh I also got dressed up as a girl when I was a kid. When my sister used to dress me up as a girl, she was an older girl, and so it's like some sort of thing that's part of my life experience that they tried to embarrass me or something. I don't really know. And Catholic school. I went to Catholic school in church, and I used to think in the pew, and they used to monitor me, my thoughts in the pew. And when I was being tortured, there was actually kind of this creepy scenario where I was gonna go away to Minnesota. It was like the one place I was gonna. It was like my one out of the human trafficking thing they were doing to me here at that time. This is, a while ago, and uh, I was gonna go to Minnesota, and they were gonna do this like talking circle. It was like a Jesuit thing, and it was like my one avenue out or whatever. And now I look back on it, it was like a little creepy. Like they were kind of pushing me towards this thing or whatever. And I'm glad that I didn't do it because California got a lot better, and things changed for me here, and so now it's way better. But they're still doing these like mind control things in the media and the shootings and stuff. And so they started this shooting. Previous to the shooting, they ran this massive psyop with regards to hoaxes, and they said hoax, 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 school shooting hoax, school shooting hoax, school shooting hoax all across the country. And they said if we find anybody doing this, we're going to go after them or whatever. And then you have the Minnesota thing, and it comes right after that, and it's like it's all undermining getting guns off our streets because everybody knows. I think we're living in like 1984, Big Brother, and everybody knows that these types of things happen or whatever. And so, is what it's like, to what extent is the reality real and what extent isn't? And that's where schizophrenic comes in. You can't discern reality from fake. And did some weird guy monitor me and go shoot children? And in the schizophrenic world, I like to think no, that didn't happen. And it's a lot easier for me to think that it didn't happen than that it did happen. And so I'm not saying that shootings don't happen. And it's like the war, cultural production of the war. They'll be willing to sacrifice people for the sake of cultural production, and there's a duplicity involved, and it's all part of a fascist movement and mind control movement. And so yeah, that's basically what I can say about that. And uh, you know, uh, yeah. So the schizophrenia thing I started off with talking about the technology that's out there in the domain. So when you see somebody who hears voices in their head, it should trigger you to say, "Hey, that's very likely caused by a technology." Especially if there's someone that shows that they're somewhat sane. And I think I showed that I'm somewhat sane, you know? And so if they're showing that they're somewhat sane in other ways, now I know they started this thing probably to get me to come on here to talk about it, to try to discredit me some more. And so, you know, uh, like there's too many guns in our country, so it's not like I'm saying like I'm all like protect the gun, but when everybody knows that Wizard of Oz is in charge of the government, and everybody knows that, it's just like I think people are just they think they can manipulate people, and it's just like stop manipulating and just start saying what you believe in your own self or whatever. But my anxiety comes from this fascist movement in this country, and this equating production, increased production, or perpetual increased production. Even there's even like a perpetual increased production. They say, like I said in another video, it says like be better than the day before every day. It said eventually you're gonna run out of room to be better. And so it's like I'm not saying you don't want to improve on things or whatever, but like uh, it's not physically possible to be better than yourself for your whole life. There's such a thing as aging. There's such a thing as illness. Such a thing as burnout, and equating production or increased production and profits with evolution of society and people is not real, and we're going to come to a head in this country, and I worry that we're going to fall into this like communist versus fascist fight all over again, like there was in the 20th century. And I don't want to be alive when that happens again. So I hate to say that for the kids that are coming up, So it's like we have to like figure out a way to come to some conclusions about like what's appropriate for humanity. And yeah, so this fascist movement is I don't know why people like fascism. It's like it soothes their ego or something. They get told they're superior to other people or whatever. And I was actually thinking this today. It was like, you know, too bad the white supremacists that are in office, the white supremacist movement in the world, too bad they don't realize like meanness, cruelty, and stupidity doesn't make you supreme. And those are actually like detrimental traits of humanity. And it's like, you know, uh, if too bad somebody doesn't tell the supremacists that like meanness, cruelty, and stupidity are actually not at all supreme traits of human beings. Uh, so it's like, anyways, I say that anyways, which is why Joe Biden said it all the time. Uh, all right, that is my video today, recording my thoughts. It is August 25th, 26th. I don't know what it is. I think the 31st is Sunday. So that would be 30th Saturday, 29th Friday, 28th, 20, today's the 27th. All right. Thank you so much. Goodbye.